When I married Elise, I thought we were building a future, a steady, predictable future. But over time, things began to change in ways I couldn't quite grasp. She became distant, a shadow of the woman I knew. The late nights started piling up, always with a ready excuse about work. Her phone, once left casually on the counter, became her most guarded possession. I told myself it was just stress, that I was being paranoid. I wanted to believe her, to trust the woman I loved. But the truth has a way of making itself known, even when you're trying your hardest to ignore it. She started dressing differently, for someone else's eyes, it seemed. She'd laugh at messages on her phone, then quickly hide the screen if I walked into the room. The air between us grew thick with unspoken words. One evening she invited me to a work dinner. It was so out of the blue, and she was so unusually cheerful, that a part of me hoped it was a sign things were getting better. I was wrong. At the restaurant, I met her coworker, Corey. The way he looked at her with a confidence that felt unearned and invasive set my teeth on edge. She leaned toward him when she spoke, her body language excluding me completely, like I was just a stranger at the next table. Their conversation flowed with an ease we hadn't shared in months. They had inside jokes that left me on the outside, and each shared laugh felt like a small betrayal. I sat there, a guest in my own marriage, feeling more alone than if I had come by myself. The drive home was silent. My suspicions, once just a whisper, were now a roar in my head. I couldn't carry the weight alone, so I confided in my best friend Nate. He listened patiently, and his response was blunt. "Something's not right, man. You need to be careful." I tried to dismiss his warning, to push the ugly thoughts away. But a few days later, my phone buzzed with a message from him. It was a photo, then another. Elise and Carrie at a dimly lit bar, their hands intertwined, his arm around her waist. They weren't just co-workers, they were lovers. Seeing the proof, undeniable and stark, felt like a punch to the gut. The air left my lungs and the world seemed to tilt on its axis. I decided to confront her that night. I kept my voice calm, steady, even though my heart was hammering against my ribs. I asked her about Kari. She lied. Instantly, without a flicker of hesitation. She told me I was insecure, that I was imagining things, that my jealousy was pushing her away. She twisted everything back on me, a masterclass in manipulation. She denied and denied, her voice rising with indignation until I couldn't take it anymore. I showed her the photos. The mask cracked. The fight went out of her, replaced by a cold, hard truth. She admitted everything. The affair had been going on for months. She said Carrie made her feel alive, adventurous, seen. And then she delivered the final blow. She said I bored her, that our life was a predictable, dull routine she couldn't stand anymore. Each word was a carefully chosen weapon, designed to inflict maximum damage. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to save. I told her to pack her things and get out. I felt a strange, chilling numbness as I watched her leave, closing the door on the life we were supposed to build together. I thought the worst was over. I was so wrong. A week later, I took a short trip to clear my head, to try and process the implosion of my life. When I returned, I walked into a nightmare. My apartment had been destroyed. The sofa was slashed, its stuffing pulled out like entrails. My clothes were cut to ribbons and thrown across the floor. My laptop, my TV, all my electronics were gone. But what hurt the most was the empty space on the shelf where my grandfather's watch used to be, where photos of my parents had been. Family heirlooms, irreplaceable memories vanished. My blood ran cold. I knew she still had a key. Rage is a powerful motivator. I immediately contacted a private investigator. He was efficient and discreet, and it didn't take him long to uncover the disgusting truth. Elise and Carrie had broken in together. They had systematically ransacked my home, stealing anything of value. They pawned what they could for quick cash and, according to the investigators' sources, had even bragged about it to their friends. Their sheer arrogance would be their undoing. That arrogance became my advantage. I started gathering evidence. Security footage from the pawn shop, screenshots of their social media posts, sworn statements from the people they'd bragged to. I documented every single piece of damage, every stolen item. I presented a rock-solid case to the police and I filed charges. Things moved quickly after that. Warrants were issued. Corey was arrested in the middle of his workday, a public humiliation he richly deserved. Elise's employer found out about her involvement and fired her on the spot. Her downfall was swift. First came the angry phone call. She screamed, she cursed, she blamed me for ruining her life. Then, a few days later, came the begging. She pleaded for mercy, for me to drop the charges. She said she'd made a mistake. I just reminded her that she wasn't a child. She was an adult who had made a series of choices. Now she had to face the consequences. The lawsuit ended exactly as I knew it would, a judgment in my favor. They owed me for every penny of damage and theft. Of course, they couldn't pay. Their lives continued to unravel. Corey, it turned out, had other skeletons in his closet and ended up in jail for unrelated charges. Elise lost her apartment and was forced to move into a rundown place on the other side of town. She kept trying to contact me, sending pathetic messages asking for help, for sympathy. I gave her none. I blocked her number and focused on myself. Slowly, painstakingly, I started to rebuild. I replaced the furniture, I reconnected with old friends, I started going to the gym again. I learned how to breathe on my own. Months passed. My life was finally finding a new, quieter rhythm. Then, at a local festival, I saw her. Elise approached me, a fake, gentle smile on her face, pretending she just wanted to make peace. But I could see the selfish calculation in her eyes. Before I could even tell her to leave me alone, Corey appeared. He was drunk, angry, and spoiling for a fight. He got in my face, shouting, trying to provoke me. I didn't want any trouble, but when he shoved me, I defended myself. It was over in seconds. Witnesses immediately backed my story. The police arrived and took him away, again. Elise just stood there, looking utterly defeated as she followed the ambulance. That was the last time I ever saw her face to face. The story doesn't quite end there, though. A few weeks later, she was caught trying to break into my apartment building. The police found her prying at the front door. This time, she was facing serious charges. I heard through the grapevine she was likely going to serve time. I didn't celebrate her downfall. I didn't feel joy at her suffering. I just felt nothing. I had let go. I chose to leave the bitterness and the anger in the past where they belonged. I chose to move forward, to build a quieter, simpler life. I chose peace. And for the first time in a very long time, it finally felt like it was mine. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, know that it does get better. Remember to like this video and subscribe for more content. See you next time.